We're going to talk about blue whale. Today I'm going to talk about some tips that parents can utilize in order to protect their children from deadly games like blue whale and the other dark side of technology. So if you're interested, keep watching. Hi and welcome to another session at Live to the Fullest, a channel that inspires you to be your best and live to the fullest. Today I have some basic tips for parents on what they can do to actually help keep their children safe. I'm going to talk about the blue whale game. This game has actually been banned across the world. It was developed in Russia by a psychologist who knew the tricks of the mind, and really like a very disturbed mind could have really come up with a game like this. But the good news is that it has been banned across multiple countries. Children are now, they cannot download the game per se, like on WhatsApp or Facebook or Google. I'm not going to go into the details of all the 50 steps of the game because that's not the main discussion here. The main discussion is how do we prevent and monitor our kids. So there are some steps in the game which involve self-mutilation, which means you take a knife or a razor and you cut yourself or hurt yourself or pierce yourself. And then being isolated, not talking to anyone, going onto the roof, things that are just negative, extremely negative, and if there is an insecure child, he will be pushed into a more and more negative frame of mind. And of course, the final step is committing suicide. So encouraging the player to commit suicide and kind of complete the challenge or win the challenge. Even though it has been banned, I think there were a lot of lessons learned of how technology can be deadly if we don't pay attention and if we don't take the right measure. What we have to understand as parents is parenting is leadership. That is why it is so tough. Parenting is not management. It is not delegation. It is definitely not being the authority figure. It is leadership, which means that if I want behavior X in a child, I have to behave in that way first. Which means that if I'm asking the child that don't spend too much of time on the internet or don't spend too much of time on the phone, I need to do that myself first. Because children will not follow what you tell them. They will follow what they will observe. Very, very important. This is the most crucial part about understanding how we can guide our children on appropriate use of technology. So monitor your time as well on technology so that you have the authority to monitor your child's time on the internet. The second thing that I would recommend in alignment with this point is, let's see if your home's layout and your logistics allow you to have a public area in the home where everybody is operating the internet in a public area. Like I said, this is tough because parenting is leadership. How many times have we heard a manager or a delegator get famous in the world? Leaders get famous because they lead by example and they influence. They don't dictate, they don't tell, they don't give orders. They actually do the desired behavior and people follow them. So I would highly recommend that if you have any internet work yourself, see if you can have a public area where you're accessing your laptop. Because if children know that you go after dinner into your bedroom and spend like 2 hours or 1.5 hours and God knows what you're surfing, you cannot expect the child to not follow that. And that's where isolation begins. That's where the child will think, okay, I can do it too. You know, I can download whatever I want, view whatever I want because nobody's going to question me because they're doing the same thing. So I'll highly recommend if you can have a common area where everybody gets to use their electronics and internet especially, and then you don't get to take electronics into your rooms. Keep a quota time. You can keep it as a reward mechanism, but that's not highly recommended because very soon children know how to operate the device and they are no longer dependent on you to actually put in a code or put in or turn on an app for them. They reach that age where they now actually know how to operate the device and in fact even demand the device from the parents. So set the example from the very beginning. Don't wait for them to be 8 or 9 and then start suddenly questioning them and telling them what to do and what not to do. You have to set it from the very beginning. We often complain as parents that nowadays kids are always on technology, but they didn't get hooked to it in the first place on their own. We gave them that, okay, I need my 30 minutes of time, I need to just chill, why don't you take this? Or I just don't want to spend the time to read that book with the child, so I'll give you the phone. So a lot of times it starts with us. So see if you can manage that from the very beginning and keep a quota on the time that they can use the device. Like we discussed earlier, the game has these steps where you have to self-mutilate. So that is very easy to detect. If you're a parent who's actually engaged with your child, I think it's not that hard to figure out that there is a cut on their hand, or there's this whale design, or any kind of tattoo, or any kind of weird symbols or damages to their body. So make sure that you spend time with them, that you engage with them, give them some chores, especially if it is summertime. It will be easier to detect, considering that this game involves a lot of self-mutilation on the arms and the legs. But just being aware in general, and maybe having an outdoor game. If it is winter time, when you have an outdoor sporty game, you will sweat and you will have to eventually take off, some of those woolen layers, and you can see that your child is overall safe or not. So self-mutilation can be easily detected. See if their room is getting cleaned. Make sure that there are no weapon or knives under the bed or under the pillow. Just being vigilant, not hyper vigilant, but vigilant. Next tip is that I would highly recommend that all the pictures from the devices, all the devices in the home, should sync up to a cloud. Now I know that sometimes children could be old enough, especially if they're teenagers, they know how to turn on or off the cloud sync. But this is where you kind of have to use a little bit of your discretion, depending on how advanced your child is in technology. But what happens is that when you sync all the pictures to the cloud, so as a parent you can view what are the pictures that are being taken on your child's device. And this game involves a lot of picture taking, because apparently somebody on WhatsApp who is the administrator or the curator of the game will contact you and will guide you through the tasks, and then you have to send them pictures, like getting up at 4:20 a.m. You have to take a picture and you have to send it to them. So if you're taking a picture and if the camera cloud sync is on, you should be able to receive it on your account. Use Google Photos, that is the simplest, or use Apple iCloud, whichever one you use. But that way all the pictures of the devices will be synced, and you will know exactly which pictures are being taken from your child's phone. My next tip is about using a good parental control software. Now I know that there are a lot of good softwares out there for our mobile devices, considering that this game is played on mobile. It used to be it's an app that used to get downloaded, and then you get sucked into these secret groups. But there are amazing parental control softwares out there. Personally, that I've used on my desktop and my laptops has been Net Nanny. It's just a really good parental control software, even though I didn't need it. But it does a lot of good things in terms of sending you alerts, and you can put in certain keywords, you can put in certain search terms, and if anybody in the at home is accessing that, you will be sent an alert. So I highly recommend. See, technology cuts technology. I really believe in that. Positive technology is always one step higher, I feel. I know that we like to believe that negative is higher, but there's always a solution to curb that negative. So use a really good parental control software. They're not very expensive. A lot of them are very easily accessible, designed for parents. In fact, Apple has an inbuilt app for that as well. So download that so that it gives you alerts. You will have an administrator password. Make sure that your child doesn't know the administrator password, because that's the whole goal. If they know the administrator password, they will be able to change a lot of the settings and you will not get the alerts. This tip is actually the most important tip, I feel, because it is the root cause of why children in the first place even get attracted to such attackers or such people who are trying to groom them. Whether it is the case of child abuse through regular scenarios where the predator actually grooms your child, which means they build the trust with the child and then they exploit the child, or whether it is through technology like Snapchat or the Blue Whale game. The ultimate root cause is low self-esteem or insecurity. Because when your child is insecure, that means there's a vacuum or a gap in your child's psyche, and anybody that he feels can fill that gap can readily take over, because that gap is there, that emptiness is there. So it's easier to fill that emptiness of insecurity with something negative and distracting. So raising your child's self-esteem is the highest priority. It will help them not succumb to peer pressure. A lot of these technology oriented attacks happen because of peer pressure. Like if the friends are talking about this latest phone, or they're talking about this latest gadget, or you don't have it, or so you have to teach your child on how to handle peer pressure. But the real weapon that you can provide to your child is extremely good emotional security. Providing this security starts from infancy. It starts from very young, even when they don't understand language, they don't understand words, but you have to use some good mother messages, like I love you, you are safe with me, I'm there for you, things like that. Now if you want me to do mother messages in detail separately, I can do that. Just let me know in the comment section below, and I'll make a separate video on that, because that's a very elaborate topic and a very important one too. But in order to raise the self-esteem of your child, make sure that you're giving good mother messages from very young age, and as they grow older, it's never too late. The most important part is that your child should feel comfortable coming to you. They should not feel threatened. They should not feel unsafe coming to you if they have to express something that they think that they have done wrong. For example, if let's say your child comes up and says that, hey mom, have you heard about the blue whale game? And you go like, oh my god, how did you know about this game? Tell me all about it. Where did you see it? Have you downloaded it? Have you started playing it? You know, if you lose your control and your calmness, their defenses are actually going to go up, and they're going to be like, oh my god, I just made my parent mad, and I'm going to step back and not give them all the details, or I'm just going to lie and just get this issue over with. So in practical scenario, if your child comes up and says that, have you heard of the blue whale game? What you should do is bite your tongue, because it is a matter of concern. Your child is talking about a game that has been deadly. You bite your tongue, you maintain your composure, and you say, I think I may have, but what about it? What have you heard about it? Is it something interesting? So you ask questions in a very non-threatening way, in a very composed way, so that they can actually share and give all the information to you. Now the goal is not to get all the information and then pounce back on them. That is not the goal. The goal is to be genuinely gathering the information, knowing where they're coming from, where they're getting this information, who's putting pressure on them, and how they were downloaded, and how far along are they with that game or with that specific dangerous activity. And then you can sit down in peace and explain it to them with rationale and emotion. So it has to be a mixture. And if you don't know how to do it, that's totally fine. There's so many resources out there for parenting now that it's not hard anymore. You can take a professional's help. Just go to a professional counselor. They will be able to guide your child if you feel that you are not able to guide them, because this matter is so important. But the one thing that you can do as a parent, you can raise their self-esteem by not reacting, by keeping your calm, by using good mother messages throughout their life, starting from infancy, and by trusting them that they can come to you even for difficult topics, and they will be safe. They still will be accepted. They will not be yelled at. I hope these tips have helped you today. If you enjoyed this discussion, please like the video. I'll see you next time.